right, team. Coach Dana Cavalea here with you today with the Becoming a Champion show. And today I got to sit down with Stacy Madison. Stacy started the company, Stacy's Pita Chips. Many of you know them. I've had them, have enjoyed them in the beautiful black bag. I know I'm a big fan of the brand. And she shares with us her story, what she went through to bring this brand to market. And it's a great story. And I hope you sit back and enjoy it. And one of my favorite parts so far is that she had no plan. And sometimes the best plan is no plan. Just go with it. Enjoy today's show. And if you do, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, sit back and enjoy the show with Stacy Madison. Where did you grow up?
When I was younger, I lived in upstate New York in Kingston. And then as a teenager, we moved to Massachusetts.
Okay, cool. And is that where you got started in your entrepreneurial career?
Eventually.
Okay. Yeah.
I had a couple of career changes in there, but yeah.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that. Like, I'm sure I was like, did she come out of the gate as, right into the entrepreneurial world, or what?
Oh my God, no.
Tell us about your journey.
No, I was a clinical social worker.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I hear you loud and clear.
All right, good. No, I went to school. I was a clinical social worker. I got licensed in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and I worked down in DC as well.
Okay.
Worked with pregnant, homeless, drug addicted women in a group home. And I did like the job, but I loved the job, but I was making like $22,000 a year or something. And then I needed to make more money. So when it got my license to go, my LICSW to go into private practice. Okay. And then I was able to do marriage and family counseling back here in New England. But, you go in at night, you open the door, you unlock the door, and you're by yourself. And I don't know, I guess I wasn't as good at it as I can say that now, but I didn't have the same empathy as I did for people with such large problems. And, I was kind of like, oh, you think you have problems?
I imagine you were feeling quite drained too, listening to people's problems all day.
Yeah. And it was very isolating, at night, you had to see patients at night when the whole thing was reverse schedule. So it wasn't my thing. So kind of moved on, found the next opportunity.
How old were you when you were, at that stage in your life?
Oh my God.
I'm dating you a little bit. I'm making you go back in time.
You are. Yeah. I'm back. I would have to say I was in my 30s.
Okay.
I was in my 30s, and I didn't get started on the business until like mid 30s.
Okay. So you really had a whole career before you even got into we'll say it's your main thing or former main thing, but it's still, you're still in food and consumer brand, I guess. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So you had this whole career, which I love because so many people think that, hey, where I start is where I have to stay. And they go through sometimes this dogfight. And they say, I got to stay here. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I was educated. This is what I was taught. Yeah. And they can't get out.
It's sad.
Yeah. So
it is sad because it's hard to get out. But, you're not, if you don't love what you do, then you're not, then it's work.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a job. It's work. It's not, if you love what you do, it's not work.
Okay. So in this next transition, right? Did you love pita chips? Was that your was that a passion snack of yours, or how did you get in? How did you get into this whole thing?
Well, so I loved food.
Yeah. Who doesn't, right?
Right. So, it was like through college and I always waitressed or cocktailed, and, I loved doing that. I loved the social piece of it. And, but I didn't have a way to get back into food. So when I did go, make that leap and that career change, that, that daunting kind of moment in time. It's super hard, but I loved it. Was a way to get back to loving what you do. So that's why we started with the food cart, and it's kind of like you realize when you make that kind of a change, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. And so how did you start? Like, how did you come up with, was it a recipe that you had? Was it like, where did the idea spark for you to say, hey, you know what? This pita chip thing, it's going to be a thing. We're going to make it a thing. We're going to disrupt, Doritos and all the other stuff.
Well, I mean, it started out with a food cart in downtown Boston.
Okay.
And we were selling sandwiches made in pita bread and just kind of rolling them up, and homemade dressings and, just healthy food. And, the Northeast hadn't, back in the day, in the 90s, right? 96.
That's back in the day?
Well, yeah. Well, 96, there wasn't a whole lot of healthy options.
I know.
To choose from. And there were a handful, but not really many. And I had lived out in California and Hawaii. And then when I came back to the East Coast, it was kind of like, oh my God, like you can't find anything to eat that you want to eat. So that's why we started with the food cart and just set it up. It looked beautiful, had all fresh tomatoes out front, and herbs, and it was really good. It was really good. And they were good sandwiches. And I'll tell you, it, like being on the food cart is, it was very humbling. It was humiliating at times. Like I said, I was in my 30s and watching other people's careers progress. And here I am standing on a street corner behind a food cart, and I felt like I was a joke.
Yeah.
But the reality is I did enjoy it, and I wasn't standing there because that was my end game. I did that because that was a stepping stone to where I didn't know where I wanted to be, but it was a stepping stone to get somehow into the food business.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool though, that you were out there. And what most people don't think about is when you get that close to the customer every day, you're learning the customer. They're telling you, you're seeing the behavior, like, how much money do big food brands spend to understand consumer behavior? And there you are in the food cart on the front line, just talking to the people that will probably be not just that are your current customers, but probably your future customers. Yeah.
And I still get, like, even, 20 some odd years later, I still get people who are like, oh my God, I worked down in the financial district. I used to eat your sandwiches. And I remember when you had the food cart, and I'm like, yep. So do I.
Yeah. But you have to start somewhere. And I would think a food cart's a lot cheaper than a storefront in downtown Boston.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it was, like I said, it was a stepping stone, but I didn't know where it was going to lead to. And and the cart in itself was successful in the sense, we had a nice customer base, and then at the end of the day, like, we always had to have enough bread to make the roll-ups on. And so you can run out of anything on your food cart, you run out of tomatoes, whatever. But if you run out of bread, you really can't make your sandwiches. So we always over ordered. So we always had this, all this fresh pita bread at the end of the day. Would go back to the commercial kitchen, cut it up, bake it into different flavored chips, and give it away for free to people standing in line. And really, that was how the idea was born. And and come November in the fall, and when it gets cold and you're out there in snow pants, you're like, this is just, you're like, okay, we gotta figure something else out. And basically that's where it started, okay, well, let's sample these to, we sample these to people. Let's, move, what do I need to do to get packaging? What do we need to do? Like kind of asking yourselves all of the questions you need to ask just to get it done.
Yeah.
And because my background's in social work. I don't have a business degree. I didn't have any of that, know-how. Yeah. So it was kind of just by you got to keep asking yourself those questions, and then you kind of helps you figure it out.
Yeah, that's actually why I love talking to people like you on the show. I spoke with Kara Golden a few weeks ago, with Mint Water, and it's like you guys are my favorite because so many people are in the situation that you were in. Like, hey, I have an idea. I want to give it a shot. Or, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have a formal business background. I'm guessing. Here I am in this food cart. It's freezing. And the pain of not wanting to be out there anymore in the winter said, hey, what do I do with all this extra bread? I got to get out of here and do something new. So many times, today, like in traditional business schools and business settings, you're hearing about this business plan. And I coach a lot of people that are over planning their own life. And for you, you're saying, hey, I didn't know where it was going to go. And that would scare the hell out of most people, by the way. Like, I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm going to keep going. And all of a sudden it's like the steps started to continue to show themselves. And here it sounds like you used just extra product that some people in traditional business would say you made a mistake on just ordering too much bread, pita bread. And you turned it into what would be.
I mean, you have to have the inventory, and then, well, what are we going to do with it? The next day you can't use it, or otherwise your sandwich will fall apart. Yeah. So you kind of have to we kind of had to come up with a solution. But, when you ask yourself that question, like, where you don't know where you're going to go, I mean, that doesn't just happen once in your life. Like, I'm 56 now. And I found myself asking, like 7 years ago, asking myself that same question. I found myself asking that same question when we sold the pita chip company. Yeah. I mean, like you constantly, but now at least I know that when I'm faced with that question, I have a little bit more under my belt with how to move forward and how to answer it and how to figure out, how to ask yourself, well, what is it that I enjoy doing? What kind of atmosphere do I want to be in? Yeah. And those are the kinds of things. And how can I make that come together? And that's exactly when I opened the juice bar. I mean, if you think about it, it was in a lot of ways a glorified food cart, right? I could make sandwiches, I could make salads, I could make smoothies. And a lot of people would be like, well, why are you standing behind the counter making smoothies, making salads? Or so many people would come in and go, oh, I didn't expect you to be here. I thought you just owned it. It's like, well, I like working. Yeah. And I like doing this. I like feeding people. And eating.
It's who you are. Was that after you sold the pizza chip company? Okay. So
that was a while after. Like, I tried a few things. I tested out. I tried some private equity. I tried, and then you kind of look at, well, how do I like the other fish in the pond that I'm swimming in?
Yeah.
And, and going to a gathering or a social or something, and, lots of people talking banking, and I'm just like, what am I doing here? Like, and you find so I moved on. Yeah.
It's cool though, how, you sell this company and then you're back saying, well, now what do I do? Right. Because most people, their big moment is the sale. For many people, it's the sale. And then for you said, okay, I want to get back into something, even if it was a little bit later. And right away, you put yourself back in front of the customer again. And maybe there's something about that old background that you used to have of meeting people and counseling them. And now here you are back with the people. Do you feel like,
and you feel good when, you make something and people are like, oh, that's good. And, it's got lots of protein and it's, made with a nut milk, or, people are just like, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, for me, that's rewarding. And especially, even my mom or my sister, or, people who would never drink something green were drinking green eventually. And
Yeah.
it was really like those kinds of things are like, wow, I don't know. That's,
Yeah. You're exposing people to try something new that they haven't had before, or, you're like an ambassador to health.
hopefully.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So you're flavoring these chips. How do you go from, farm stand to giving away extra product to, building this brand that so many people know? And how did you get distribution into retail? How did that journey happen?
Well, it was quick. I mean, we owned the company for 9 years. But definitely went into it with, having had the background of the food cart and a graduate degree. And then you're kind of like, well, failure is not an option.
Yeah.
Like somehow that, we got to make this happen. And there was no exit strategy. Like you talk about the business plan. I didn't even know what a business plan was. When I was on the cart, I'll never forget, this girl came up and she said, well, how do you keep track of your bread? How do you know how many tomatoes? How do you keep track of it? And every day she would ask me a different question. And I'd be like, why are you asking all these questions if you don't mind me asking you a question?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I work for this agency upstairs and I teach an 8-week business plan boot camp. And I'm like, I didn't even know what a business plan was. And I was like, really? I said, can I take it? She's like, oh my God, I use your cart as an example all the time. Sure. Come on. We'll set you up, whatever. So that's how I wrote my first business plan. And each week was a different part of the business plan. And it kind of helped to get, to ask a lot of questions and to get our first loan for the business. I don't know. I'm just rambling, and I don't know if I answered your question.
No, it's good. Actually, I actually like that you went there, because it was another question I had was, so you said you got a loan for the business, because I was going to ask you if you took on, partners, investors, was there a point in the growth cycle where you said, hey, we are going to bring on private equity dollars?
There was a point where we talked about having to do that. And at that point we landed a really good account that paid really fast. Okay. And so we didn't end up having to do it. We didn't have time to raise money. We didn't have for so many reasons, we just didn't end up doing that. But in the beginning, we maxed out credit cards. We did the credit card shuffle. You go all the way up to as much as you can spend. And then you get that stupid thing in the mail that says, oh, you can have a 0% finance rate until blah, blah, blah. And you swap it. Okay, I switch my balance from this one to this one, this one to this one. You do the little shuffle. And so we did that. We did get a bank loan, like a small business guarantee on a bank loan.
Okay.
Eventually. But in the beginning, borrowed money from our family, and I swear we'll pay you back. We did end up paying them back eventually, triple. Yeah. But swear just on a promise, we're going to do this, because you're already being in debt and driving around in a Jeep with the top broken in Massachusetts. And when it's raining, all you do is you open the middle console and you pull out a poncho and you put it on. And that's it.
I love it though. You put all your chips on the table and you said, let's go. It's like survive or die in a way. It's just, you didn't really give yourself an option. And sometimes too, that when that threshold, I say like a threshold of pain gets high enough, it's amazing how it activates you and pushes you to be really your best.
And so many people are like, always ask, did you have an exit strategy? Did you have it? Like, no. Number one, we just wanted to make a living doing what we love to do every day. And make a living like other people were making a living, being able to get a mortgage, being able to buy a car, being able to do things, pay off credit cards and student loans. And, that's the kind of that's the kind of goal. That was our strategy.
Yeah.
But there was never any kind of thought about exit until later. And, you know,
yeah. Which I find, you know, today, like a lot of people, they're focused on exit right away. You know, you hear things like, hey, build your business for sale right away. And it's like,
and then you miss a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And for you, it was like, it sounded like there was survival involved. There was passion involved. There were other things at play, and you just went all in on it, and you watched really the result of your blood, sweat, and tears create acceleration, you know, through your passion over time.
Yeah. And those things are distracting. I feel like if you're thinking about selling your company, it takes away from, you know, it takes something away from those day-to-day decisions. Like, are you making the correct decision for that time and that moment? Or are you making a decision for selling?
Yeah.
And then you're making a decision for something unknown, and you're making a decision for somebody else, and you're not making a decision for yourself, for the here and the now, and what's your business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is, I'm like fascinated by this, just because it's it's a unique story. And, you know, one thing I always say is, you know, before I have anybody on, I don't do a ton of research, because I want to have a real conversation, you know, with the person that I'm speaking with. And this story, I don't know, it's a feel good story because it's so real and it's so organic and it's so unplanned. You know, it's like unplanned success in a way.
Well, I didn't research you either, if that's any consolation.
Thank you. So,
but I mean, I know a couple of the things you did, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And I did sign up for your newsletter.
Thank you.
I have to tell you, like, it literally since Friday, and I have to tell you, it started with your rant.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I was like, as you're going on about, you know, talking about people who say one thing and do another, or people who bring you down, or people who are negative with no interest in changing. I am just like, people are popping into my head. Oh, ding, that's this person. Oh, that's this person. Oh, ding, ding, ding. Yeah, like a popcorn popper. They're all popping into my head. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then I kind of said, well, geez, and how long did I stay like in the situation with this or with that? And just like, oh God, that must have been a lot of like wasted energy.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. We're all, you know, we all experience people like this. I have a friend, he's an author, he calls them energy vampires.
Yes, that's a good term.
You know, but it's true. But it sounds like too, even though there may have been some of those folks around, you found a way to continue to drive through and do your thing, which is cool.
You still have to keep reminding yourself though, because those vampires do pop up.
They do. Yeah. How do you stay focused? What's like, do you find yourself to be a focused person, or do you have to work at it?
I have to work at it. I really do. I really, really do. Okay. Like for me, multitasking is a recipe for disaster. And even if I'm trying to do something and somebody's talking to me, even as much as having a TV on or playing music, or, you know, people work like that. And it's really hard for me to stay focused. I think I might need medication.
No, I always say that the best medicine is pumping iron.
There you go. I did that today.
Yeah. When I work with executives, I always tell them, I said, listen, you know, most leaders are nuts. So I always say, you got to burn the top before you go around anybody. You got to burn the top layer off, like do some sort of exercise, training. And if you're still jacked up, go for a walk later, because you have to burn the rest of that top layer off. You know, I find most, you know, high performers, leaders of companies that are winning, you know, they're nuts in a good way. But that insanity leads to, you know, what it is that they become victorious at. Yeah.
And it's funny because like I said, I've been reading your email just since Friday. And or since, I don't know, maybe I've read then I went back and I read a couple of other ones, and I mean, they're great. And I did ask myself at 7:30 this morning, am I challenging myself enough?
Yeah.
And, not just this morning, but it's fun. So I'll tell you a story. So I've been up at a cabin in New Hampshire for the last couple of weeks. I have a cabin up there, and I walked this loop around the lake, and it's like 3.5 miles or something. But there's this one hill, the Brookhaven Hill, and it's a 1/2 mile all the way up. And now I don't run, I knee replacement, I am, but I'm consistently walking. But I decided, I've been walking this hill for so many years. And then I'm like, by the end of the summer, wouldn't it be a great goal or a challenge for myself if I could run or jog or whatever, a 1/2 mile up this hill? And I started out with, one, walk a pole, run a pole, walk a pole, run a pole. Then I moved that to, doing a couple of sprints on the poles, or then I moved it up to 2 poles. Then I walked up, and I walked down 4 and run up 4. And I would intentionally leave my water and my phone at a different pole so that I had to run to go get it.
Yeah.
And I started thinking not of, I started, don't look up. Don't only look at how many poles you're passing. Don't look at the top of the hill, and just and rather than thinking about how much I had in front of me, like just how much I was like kind of pushing behind me. Yeah. And and this morning I was going to run with my 24-year-old nephews. And if they're listening to this, I said, will you go do this with me? Do the hill with me at 7:30 in the morning? And they're like, yeah, sure. And I got out there, and they weren't there. And then I was like, am I going to still do this? I really didn't want to, but I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I ran 7 poles and walked 1, and ran 7 poles. And I'm almost there.
All right. There you go. Victory. I
couldn't wait to tell it.
Yeah. No, I love it.
Bragging rights.
Those are those little micro challenges in the middle of the journey, right?
Yeah. And you said that. You said, like people, like, it helps with your performance if you have that challenge, or if you have like some kind of challenge for yourself. Yeah.
You have to set targets for yourself. You have to have little bullseyes, even believe it or not, when you run, if you just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 1, and then up to 20 and back. When you take the focus off of the actual event, and you could focus on something else, and you can have that Rain Man moment, that also helps too. And some people use
good
breathing cadence, 1, 2, 3 in, 1, 2, 3 out. So there's different things that you can do in order to optimize, performance. So.
All right, good. Well, I'm going to try that too.
Yeah,
maybe I should get earpods and try music. I don't even listen to music.
I don't know. Maybe you're better off with the disconnection piece.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to try the counting, and I'm going to let you know when I make it to the top of that damn hill.
You know what? That's a picture of victory right there.
I will hold up a Be Bold bar.
Yes. So let's talk about Be Bold bars. I mean, we talked about the pita chips, and that was a fun journey for you, I'm sure, with a lot of challenge, up, down, left, right. But in the end, it was a 9-year uphill trek. And then there was this moment of pause, I'm sure, where you go from 0 to 100, and then you go back and you say, okay, now what?
You crash.
Yeah. You're on this high, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we did that. And actually, before we get into the Be Bold bars, I want to ask you, did you have to stay on and transition the company for a while?
So I was contracted for like more money than I had ever made per year to stay on for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I only had to work 20 days a year.
Wow.
And I woke up and, that next morning and, 20 days when they say the 20 days are.
Yeah.
I woke up the next morning and I was like, oh, I don't know what I was going to do. So you know what? I'm going to go over and I'm going to help. I'm going to go to work. And I went in like almost every day for 8 months.
Wow.
And I realized at that point, I asked myself, am I more in the way? Am I doing more harm than good? Because, and I was so frustrated and I so wanted to protect the employees and, but their job really was to move on with the new company.
Yeah.
And, the customers would reach out to me and say, we're a small account. We were there right from the very beginning. How come you don't ship less than 6 cases anymore? I always went with the philosophy, anybody who wanted chips could have chips. And, and then they had minimums, so all these things that were out of my control, then I didn't, the new Stacy, the new CEO, I didn't really get along with, and we were kind of butting heads. And I'm like, am I doing more harm than good? And then I picked up my kids, twin girls, they're 3.5 at that time. And I decided to just go to Europe and travel for 5 months. And, hey, it's a flight away. If they needed me to come back to work, then I would. Yeah. And I'd just fly back. And, I ended up after into my second year, I ended up leaving.
Yeah.
And it's not to any fault of their own. I'm of Pepsi, Frito, whatever, they operate differently. And I was a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
So, and I'm very grateful for them, for the purchase of the company, for, and for so many things that they did. There's employees that are still there, but other things, it was just really hard.
Yeah. It's sometimes tough for founders of companies to be in that transition and be a part of that transition and stay on. They struggle because, there's all those policies, memories, ways in which you do things, operating procedures that are now, they're being shuffled and you're being forced to shuffle them. And meanwhile, you created them for a reason and nobody knows that reason better than you because, it was, like I said, there was some pain there that led to some of those policies and procedures and ways of doing things. So, but that's the journey. And it's, I really appreciate you speaking about this because there's a lot of people out there today that have this vision of building this brand, selling it to another big brand, and their life is going to just be so amazing forever. And they're never going to deal with another problem again when they cash out. And it's like, it doesn't really work that way. Have a good therapist on call right afterwards, because you're going to probably need someone to talk to.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely does not work out that way.
Yeah. So now you move towards these Be Bold bars. What's the vision there? What inspired you to do it?
So first, so I opened the juice bar. I opened Stacy's Juice Bar, and that one of the items that was at the juice bar, we'd make these bars. Oh, you haven't seen them. See,
sorry, we're seeing them now.
You're seeing them now.
You're like the Vanna White of Be Bold bars there.
This is the new packaging.
All right. Hey, we know her.
Pictures on the front, and we got a QR code. # What's your bold? We're doing like this whole campaign. People, trying to get people to. Everybody has their own version of bold. So trying to get people to share what's their version of bold. And they're great. They're made with different types of nut butters, nuts, wildflower honey, dark maple, gluten-free, dairy-free chocolate chips, like some little ones. There's almond butter, peanut butter. We're coming out with a macadamia nut, a cashew, and everything that's in here. We use Brazil nuts. Everything that's in here, the chia, it's all just mixed, pressed, and packed. That's it. So, and they're sold in the refrigerated section because of that. and there's no powders, there's nothing, no syrups, nothing added to them. And that's how we sold them in the juice bar. And a lot, similar to the pita chip company, these were just a product like born from the juice bar.
Okay.
It was just a product. They sold really well. They're delicious. And it's not something that, I went out and I'm like, oh, there's this great company and I'm going to invest, or I'm going to buy, or I'm going to, and it wasn't like that. It was just done organically.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it was right before the pandemic, but which does make it a little challenging, but no stranger to crisis, to crisis management.
Yeah, that's a good skill to have, crisis management. So where are you distributing these now?
So because of the pandemic, we did build our online presence quite a bit more at beboldbars.com. Now we're also on Amazon. We're sold down down south at Publix, the refrigerated section. A lot of the Stop and Shops and Wegmans have them, Myers in the Midwest. So we're starting to get better and better distribution.
Okay. How does one get distribution? Because I know there may be, again, some people listening to this that have a brand that they want to get distribution, and again, for those that don't have a traditional business background, they may think, hey, I want to sell at Wegmans. I just go to the store and I say, hey, I have this great product. Would you be willing to carry it? How does it actually work?
Well, you have to do your research. Back in the days of the pita chip company, we didn't have Google or anything, but it's very easy right now to find out who the buyers are, and who's who in whichever organization, and how many stores are in a chain and things like that. So, it starts with the buyer, making sure you have a great product is the most important. Right up there with a great product is surrounding yourself with good people.
Right.
And I've worked with so many companies that are amazing people and a crappy cookie or whatever, or it's a great product and there's people that pop up in my head that were on your rant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
no, I could see how that happens, and also too, and business, there's some sketch balls in there you got to be aware of that may actually see that you have a great product, and they just latch on and they hold on for dear life in a way, but they're also manipulative along the way as well.
Yeah. And, you have to be willing to network. You have to be willing to hear no. You have to be willing to try again. You have to ask lots of questions. And, those are the things that keep propelling you forward. And, whether it's figuring out, well, how are we going to cut a pita chip? Because when you start cutting pita bread with a knife, you get a bicep like you wouldn't believe. And eventually, you say to yourself, we have to figure out how we're going to cut the damn bread. Yeah. And you start going and touring other factories and talking to manufacturing companies and seeing what they have to say. And, eventually you start getting answers and putting things together. Yeah.
Yeah. It's last week I was talking to a company and I said, listen, when in doubt, default to action. Right.
I love that.
Yeah. Because it's like, well, I don't know, maybe how do I do it? How? And everybody gets stuck in this. And it's like, well, just go find the answer. Like go back to where, like, almost like we're going to find gold. We're not coming back unless we find it.
Yep. And I saw that in your email and I pasted it in a text message to my daughter this morning.
Yeah, no, thank you. But it's true. I just find, we can over strategize. And if we looking back on the pita chips, looking back on Be Bold, like there's no way you could have forecasted all of this and planned it all and had, so it's truly an example of trial and error, but you weren't afraid to try and you weren't afraid to take action.
Exactly.
you know.
I could see why you're a good coach.
Thank you. Thank you. But because it's like sometimes, and sometimes action leads to failure, but it is that failure that can lead you to victory, and oftentimes does. So
Yeah.
you were in the process, and I just, again, as I'm talking to
a
you,
lot of failures, but if you look back on, or what people might consider a failure, or but you look back on that and you try to, and sometimes it's much later, and you think, well, what did I learn? What was the opportunity? What can I take from that experience and move forward and apply? And an example of this was when I was out in Hawaii. I was working at a restaurant as an assistant manager, and long story short, they hired a bunch of people to open this new surf themed restaurant, and 5 of us ended up being let go. I expected a bonus. I expected this and this. I kept asking for meetings to sit down to find out, when I was going to get the bonus. And it's at that point that I realized I know how to be a better boss than these people. I could do it for them. I could do it for myself.
Right.
Like all these lessons that came out of at the time, myself bawling my eyes out and wanting to just go and want to kill them. And like, how could they do this to me? If they only told me the truth from the very beginning, I would have just said that's 8 months is fine. And then I'm going home anyway. It puts me, I didn't want to quit. I didn't want, so it's, you learn a lot from stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I'd say so where, like, again, as I look at your journey, I'm like, it's such an interesting journey. There's ups, there's downs, there's startups, there's, you sold the company. Like, where are you at right now? Like for you, like you have all that behind you now, and you have some open road in front of you. How do you feel about all this? I mean,
that's the, why are you doing this question? Why are you doing this right now? Like people ask me that all the time. Why are you doing this?
Well, I'm actually, I actually am not centering it actually around the product. I'm actually centering it around Stacy as the product.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, like a few years ago, I was dysfunctionally upset with what was going on in our world, and ask myself, well, what can I do? Am I ready to get back into the business world? And what can I do that I know how to do that might make a difference?
Right.
And if there's one more women-owned business in the world, one more female leader, one more, then, in my own small way, maybe I'm making a change. Maybe I'm doing something. Okay. And it's better than sitting around listening to the news, listening to people fight, listening to all of this disagreement, that I'm just like, well, I'm going to step up. I'm going to be bold.
Yeah.
And, and kind of, that's a lot of what we're trying to do behind the brand.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, boldness and I think confidence travel together, right? So by being bold, in order to be bold, you have to have a level of confidence to be bold, and your boldness strengthens your confidence.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So you're inspiring people. Live a bold story. There you
Everybody
go.
can do that, right?
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So that's pretty cool. I mean, you took, again, something you were experiencing and then channeled it into something to inspire other people.
Yeah. And so I challenge you, Dana. I have a challenge.
Bring it on. Let's go.
Because I know that you'll do this. So people used to ask, what's BOLD, right? If you, and I did this with our team, what would it stand for you? What would it stand for you? What would it stand for me? I extrapolated a lot from my kids, who as teenagers, you have to be outside your comfort zone all the time. And so for me, it's be yourself outside of your comfort zone, little by little, do it again. And so if it's something, it doesn't have to be something big or expensive or cost anything, or, but it's just my challenge to you, I guess, would be to just today or tomorrow, tell a random person something nice, right? Yeah. You're in the coffee shop. Oh, that's a nice outfit. Oh, somebody's looking angry. Somebody's, online and they're being a douchebag or something, and say, oh, you look like Brad Pitt or Kate Moss or something, say something like that.
Yeah.
And, see if you can just turn their day around.
Yeah.
So, and, when I go through a toll booth heading back and forth to New Hampshire, I used to always give the extra $1 because I lost my speed pass. I give the extra $1 and pay for the person behind me. And just as a surprise, they go to pay with their money and all of a sudden find out, oh my God, that person in front of you paid. I'll tell you, on the way home, the last few times, it happened to me twice that somebody paid for me.
Wow.
The toll booth operator is like, oh, would you like to pay it forward? Now there's a term attached to it. And I'm like, other people are doing this. And there's all this positivity in the world that is showing. So that's why, kind of hashtag what's your bold.
Yeah. I love that. I'm hoping that somebody does that one of these times when I go over the George Washington Bridge towards the city where it's $18.50.
How much is it?
$18. Now that would be paying it forward.
That's not New Hampshire.
No. But I agree with what you're saying because, most people, they don't even think to light up somebody else through an action or through words. And my wife does it a lot. She go, oh, I love your nails. Like somebody that's, maybe at the ice cream shop and she's serving you. I love your, and you see these people like, oh, thank you. Like they totally change.
Yeah. It made their day, made their shift, made their,
Yeah. Because there's not a lot of that going on.
Yeah. And it's funny, when I was in college, I remember I went to visit one of my roommates and her dad when we were in this diner down south somewhere with our spackle and grits or whatever we were getting. and he tipped the girl with a $2 bill. And this girl had never even seen one. And he goes, I only give those to people I think are special.
Wow. Very cool.
And this girl, I can only tell you, the $2 meant more than the 20.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. It's the words that went with it, right? And the meaning that it had.
Yep.
Yeah. And that takes, that just takes being in the moment and being present with people. It doesn't take a certain, you don't have to be in a certain wealth category. You can do this at any time.
Yeah.
But you have to choose to do it.
Yep. Just like you said with your wife. Oh, your nails look great. You're in it. And there's so many different types of people out there, but it doesn't matter. Everybody, it's the same thing. There's no judgment. There's no anything. When you're driving in a Jeep and there's that silly little Jeep wave, it doesn't matter what that other person does, but that person waved, this person waved. That's brilliant branding, but Yeah.
It's like, if you smile at somebody, if you smile at somebody, most of the time, they're not going to go and give you that, bitch face back or that angry face back, right? They're not going to do that. They're going to be inspired by, or they're going to reciprocate in a way. And for everybody, a smile is different. Some people haven't done it in a while, but they may give you a nod or, I love to test this much to your, either paying it forward is, when I'm walking in the morning, hey, good morning. Like big, like not just, hey, big. And people that have no intention of acknowledging you, all of a sudden they pick their head up quick and they feel like obligated to reciprocate. But,
talk to somebody in an elevator.
Yeah. Yep.
Why does everybody go quiet? Look up, look down, look sideways.
What do I do? Where do I turn? What do I look at? That's a good point. Elevator behavior is very strange.
Yes.
That's awesome. Stacy, this is cool. I know we could probably talk for a while, but you have you have a run that you have to mentally or physically prepare for tomorrow. So I always like to ask this last question, and I call this the Becoming a Champion show. I feel like we're all on a journey to become our champion self, whatever that is for each of us. What does the word champion mean to you if you had to give it some meaning?
So I would say it's the vision to change and the perseverance to execute.
I love that.
Right? Because
Very
it
cool.
takes a lot of bravery. And it's so hard for people to change, and for any of us.
Yeah.
For any of us, and to make a change in the world, or just talk in the elevator.
Yeah. By the way, that's a great book title. Talk in the elevator.
Talk in the elevator. There you go.
Talking in the elevator.
Oh my God. Yeah. I just finished writing a recipe book because I had to close down the juice bar. And so I wanted it to live on in people's homes. Oh my God. I am like so done writing a book.
Yeah. Your book.
I hated it.
Yeah.
It's done. It's out there. Enjoy it. But oh my God.
Yeah.
Horrible.
I always imagine those recipe books to be difficult because you got to do the pictures. There's just the whole thing that goes with it. Yeah.
And you have to remake every single recipe. People don't realize that. You have to downsize it. But it's the writing too. Like, I don't know. I was very close to writing a book before that. And now I'm just convinced that I won't. Podcasts are much nicer.
Give it some time. Yeah. Maybe you just start a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you could call it Stacy's Juice Bar, and you can that could be your podcast. And it's like this whole virtual juice bar where people grab a juice and they come and hang out with you, and they be bold and they do their thing.
There you go. It could be elevator talk.
Yeah. Elevator talk. It's weird, but it's weird, but it has to be had, or it has to be done. It has to be said.
Has to be said.
Cool. Stacy, this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And let me know where I can send you some bars, because I'd love to have you try them and you'll love them.
Well, wasn't that a great episode? I love sitting down with Stacy. She's got great energy, but most importantly, she's real. And that's what I love. Real people that have done real things. And I love that she didn't really have a plan. You know, she started out with her food cart and she was selling to folks in downtown Boston. And she started to say, hey, what do I do with this extra inventory? And she creates these pita chips. And who would have thought that this extra pita bread that she was spending money on would go and become what led to her great success and her great fortune. And, you know, in life, we can pivot, things change. You know, she started off, you know, as a therapist, social worker, and then she moved into her next venture, which took her back to food, which was her passion. So be open, be excited for change, try new things, and you never know. You too may find success and fortune in something you never thought you would find success and fortune in. And don't be afraid to just wing it and not always have a plan. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. This is Coach Dana Cavalea. And if you did, give us a like, give us a thumbs up. And if you know somebody that would benefit from today's episode, give it a share. See you next week.